Well, hello.
This is new.
Welcome back to the Pitlane Collective Podcast, the remote edition. Should we call it the remote edition? I'm ill, and I've got the man flu, and I definitely didn't want to give it to Josh. So we decided to do a remote version of the podcast, didn't we?
So this could go either really well or probably really bad.
Yeah. I think the likelihood is bad, but we'll give it a go. Do you know what? It even if it is just 2 hours of boring nonsense, I don't think it can be more boring than what we just endured. Because there was a race this weekend, wasn't there? There was a race. Well, there were two, actually. Loosely calling it a race. It was the Baku Grand Prix, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
It was the Baku Grand Prix, and I wish it'd go Baku over there because it was shit. Yeah, thank you.
There you go. He's got the puns in early.
Early.
What? We obviously we haven't, but we kind of save up all our F1 chat for this podcast. We'll get into some details about individual driver performances and stuff, but the weekend as a whole, what did you make of it?
So in seasons gone, last season, I really liked the sprint format. I thought it added a little bit extra to a race weekend and stuff. But I just wasn't feeling it this week at all. Any of the structure of it, I didn't like the whole shootout thing. I don't know. It kind of made it all feel a bit cheap to me. And I can see what drivers like Max were saying now, is it just sort of oversaturates it, and we got really excited to see the Grand Prix and the race weekend, waited 4 weeks for it. And I don't know, it just kind of felt like a burst balloon. It was just a bit, I didn't really like the whole one practice. I don't think the drivers did, because you seen there was quite a few accidents, and I think maybe that is down to drivers are just getting onto the track, have a one practice session, and then bam, they're straight into the race, the Grand Prix qualifying instantly. I just don't think that's a great format, and it probably needs revising.
Yeah, to me it felt a bit I was same as you. I think when I came into it, I was like, oh, do you know what? This could be good. I get it. Some of the sprints were a bit exciting last year and stuff, and I don't think everyone loves them, but clearly F1 wants to, clearly they're here to stay. But I came into it going well, we haven't had racing in 4 weeks, so I'll try and enjoy it. And I was the same. I just couldn't get into it. I think what kind of felt like it just didn't click for me was the fact that we had qualifying for the Grand Prix. Cool. That was on a Friday, so that was a bit weird. Then we had another qualifying session. I know they're calling it the sprint shootout, but it's basically just another qualifying session, which basically goes, hey, the guys who messed up their laps yesterday, this is what they could have done. So that was, that happened. And then we had the sprint, which was basically just a short version of the race. And kind of took away any kind of suspense of, Leclerc had put it on pole, and it was will he be able to hold on for the win? As soon as, I don't think anyone realistically thought he could, but, there was potential for a bit of surprise there. And then the sprint just killed that, because you're right, okay, we'll just, we'll see what happens there. Okay, the Red Bulls, got past. Bit of battling and stuff with George and Max and things like that. It was about the only thing of note that really happened in that sprint. And then you're just oh, okay, let's watch that again, but longer. And it literally was. So the whole sprint format just feels a little weird. And I suppose if we'd have had a banger of a race and the sprint was amazing, we'd be sitting here saying completely different things. But the fact that the race was so boring, and the fact that we essentially watched two boring races, just, I don't know where it leaves that. I don't know where it leaves it.
One of the really annoying things about it was, and I know it's quite trivial, and it probably is to a lot of people, is the fact that the Grand Prix qualifying is now on the Friday. And I think the commentators touched on it over the course of the race weekend. A lot of people are in work.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the Grand Prix is it's over the weekend. You can watch it all. You can watch the whole weekend and follow it. But a lot of people are in work on the Friday and missing what can be the most exciting part of the weekend sometimes, especially when you dull race.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, it kind of really bummed me out a bit, though.
It was a lot of F1 to watch as well, wasn't it? Like, it was a lot of, four full sessions to kind of sit down and try and watch. And then also the fact that the sprint is now completely detached from the actual Grand Prix. Like, I guess in previous years, it's multiple years now, they've been running these sprints. It at least has some effect on the Grand Prix. So there's a bit of jeopardy if someone crashes, or if someone's going for a move or something, it could affect their Sunday. Whereas because the sprint is now detached, like, I'm not saying that's always a good thing, but because it's detached now, it just, like, it feels like there's no point. It's just a mini Grand Prix weekend sandwiched in a Grand Prix weekend.
It's a money-making exercise.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And I know a lot of the drivers, or a few of the drivers, have called it out, and it definitely needs reviving, because it's not fun for anyone.
Do you know where the biggest thing for me, when I was sort of sitting down to write notes about it afterwards as well, was, imagine you were a new fan. Imagine you just watched the first season of Drive to Survive, or the latest season, and then you'd sat down and you'd gone, oh, I'll give this Grand Prix thing a go. I feel like it would be so confusing to try and follow, like, the old format. And I know it's tempting to be like, back in my day it was so much better, but like the old format of practice, qualifying, Grand Prix, it works.
It just works.
It's easy to follow, and it just feels weird having another qualifying and another mini race sandwiched in between everything.
And then on top of that, in the sprint shootout, they had the mandatory tyres.
Yeah.
So you go, what is it, medium, soft or something? It's like,
why? Yeah, just to conserve the amount of tyres that they've got, I guess. But it did end up in that weird situation where poor Lando and Yuki, Lando did get through to the final part of the sprint qualifying, didn't he? And then he just couldn't go out. And Yuki was the same. They didn't have the tyres to be able to go out and do the session. So it was a bit weird.
Team Max, get rid of it.
Yeah. I'm not... I guess we'll see it at a couple more races first, and maybe it'll grow. But as a first sort of test of it, didn't really work, did it?
Nope.
And then, we had the main race. We had the main event. And yeah.
That was boring too.
It just kind of, didn't really work. I don't know whether Baku just, unless you have enormous crashes there or something, I don't know whether it just doesn't really produce great racing, to be fair.
Do you know what? I've always said I don't genuinely like street tracks. But as far as they go, I really like Baku. I like the track. I think it's really fun to drive on, like, the sims and stuff like that. And I usually like watching the race because, as you say, there's usually is something. There's a crash, there's a safety car. And I know we did get a little bit of that. But yeah, without that, it becomes like another...
Just a bit processional, innit?
Yeah. Like, the Red Bulls flew off into the distance, and then that was kind of it for the whole race, really.
Yeah.
There wasn't much action anywhere. I think a lot of them, maybe Haas and another team, were holding on for a really late safety car, hence the pitting in the last lap and nearly bowling down a load of people. It didn't come, but I think that shows you a lot of the teams wait for that, because 9 times out of 10 it happens, and we didn't even get that.
No, it just fell a bit flat. Hey ho! But what we're gonna do, we've teased it a little bit. We're going to introduce a bit of a new format to the way we review these Grand Prix to stop us going off on massive tangents and stuff. We're going to give each driver a rating out of 10 for the whole weekend. Obviously, this is a great weekend to start doing this, because one, like, there were 4 sessions, so we've got to boil all those performances individually down, and 2, it was dull. So we've got to try and talk about people who I don't even know if I saw them at all during the race.
Yeah, I'm going to be fair warning. I'm going to be completely honest. I have tried, but a lot of them I'm just going to be making it up on the spot, because a lot of the drivers in the midfield and further down, I haven't got a clue. So
yeah. Well, let's start with
5.
the easy ones. Let's start with the race winner, Sergio Perez.
Okay. I don't think there's much more he could have done that weekend. I think the only blemish for that weekend for him was third in quali. That was it. Won the feature, won the sprint, dominated. I don't know whether you could say Max was just maybe coasting or whatever, but that's by the by. He won the race. Max couldn't close up to him, and there's nothing more he could have done. As I said, the only blemish was third in quali, but he made up for that. So cool.
So how are you scoring him on a score of 10?
I was going to give him a 10. And then the only reason I'd knocked it down to a 9 was just because of that third in quali.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
So it was quite harsh. But to be fair, you could give him a 10 and it would be totally fair.
Do you know what, mate? I've probably been harsher than you then. I've given him an 8. I think it was I fully agree with you. Solid performance. I think he got out qualified twice in the 2 quali sessions we had.
Yeah.
But I think he had a solid drive, beat Verstappen. Got a little bit lucky with the safety car, but hey ho, it happens. And that Red Bull's a rocket ship. But the only reason I've kind of scored him 8, and to be fair, 8 high for what I've kind of done for the whole grid. The only reason I've put him as an 8 is just because I feel like if you're a Red Bull driver, first or second is like kind of minimum, really.
Yeah.
Like you anything other than that, you've had a pretty rubbish weekend. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me for Perez.
I'm glad you went that way because I thought I was being harsher than 9. So it turns out you're the bastard in this. So I'm happy with that.
I'll keep it going then. I've given Max Verstappen a 7 out of 10. Yeah,
sorry.
I think he did well. I think he struggled with the car a little bit more. Obviously, in the sprint, he had damage, and I'm not expecting him to, outdrive that. He got unlucky with the safety car, and it would have been interesting to see whether he could have battled Perez. In the main race. It would have been interesting to see if he could have held up Perez or sort of battled with him. But yeah, he kind of just couldn't really close back up to Perez once that safety car was done, and he also got out qualified in both the sprint and the main qualifying. So yeah, I've given him a 7 out of 10. Still a high score on on balance with what I've kind of scored everyone else, but yeah, 7 out of 10. How did you score him?
I was meaner than that.
Wow. Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So I love my boy Max. But I think that was a poor weekend for him. I've given him a 6.
Ooh.
He didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
He got, as you just mentioned, he was second. He was second in the race. He was second in the quali for the Grand Prix. I think Max has put himself on such a high pedestal where first in everything is his benchmark.
Yeah.
And when he falls below that, I think it's a poor weekend because he is a better driver than Sergio Perez, and in the same machinery, he should be absolutely blitzing him. Well, maybe not blitzing him, but he should be winning, as we've seen in previous weekends. He normally drives off, and he's 10 seconds into the distance. I don't know whether he came into the weekend a bit with something, a stick up his ass or something, because he didn't like the format of the weekend. He's had a bit of a moan, hasn't he? I don't know whether that's affected his performance or whatever, but it was just a bit of a performance from Max, I think. So I don't think that was good enough at all.
Wow.
And which is mental because he
Tough
came
love.
second.
Tough love. Yeah. I guess it shows. It's just a testament to how well he's performed in the last couple of years.
But I think he would critique his own performance like that.
Yeah.
I think if you got into the mind of Max Verstappen and you pulled out the race weekend when it was third in the sprint, second in the Grand Prix qual, and second in Grand Prix, so that was an abomination. Don't tell Jos Verstappen that.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
He's not getting a lift home after that.
Yeah, he's getting dropped off at a petrol station somewhere and left. Wow, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, you've definitely gone harsher than me there. I guess rounding out the podium places, Charles Leclerc. Now, I will say I have tried to be as unbiased as possible with this. I've given him a 9 out of 10 because I honestly don't think he could have done anything else there. And the reason I've tried to be completely unbiased is if I take his name out of it and I take the fact that I'm a fan and whatever, and just purely look at the performance, a car that is nowhere near the top. He put it on pole twice. I mean, I don't know what they don't call it pole in the sprint, but whatever that was, he was first. And then he beat a Red Bull in the sprint. Admittedly, Max had damage, and he came third in the Grand Prix. No mistakes, no issues. Just solid drive. I don't think I can pick a flaw anywhere in there. It's so obvious he just doesn't have the car to take him up to fight with the Red Bulls. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Interesting, because you've just said all those amazing things, which are all true, and you couldn't pick a fault, yet you still give him a 9.
Yeah, I know. So I am reserving my 10 out of 10 for somewhere in the season if there's an insane performance somewhere.
Right. So I've been very generous, so I did give him a 10.
There we go.
Because I had exactly the same reason as you. I don't think that weekend could have gone any better than it did for him.
No.
So he was pole, as you say, twice, and he finished behind both Red Bulls in the main event and ahead of Max. Granted, yeah, he had the damage, but still, that is anyone else in the grid. That's the best anyone is hoping for. If they can tick all those boxes, they have had a monumental weekend. And as you say, I can't pick F fault in anything Charles did. He didn't do a Ferrari. He didn't do a Charles.
No.
Everything went swimmingly. It went perfect. I don't know what more he could have done to warrant the 10. Because let's face it, you could say, he could have won the race. He couldn't have.
No, there's no win in that.
There's just no way. So I think.
Nice, solid. Well done, Charles. We've got Mr. Fernando Alonso next. How did you rate him?
This one, I give him a 7.
Okay.
I think it was pretty solid from him. He was 6th in qualifying, 8th in the shootout, 6th in the sprint, and then 4th in the race. Again, he was pulling away from Sainz with ease once that happened. He was. I thought that the radio message with his. He can attack me if he wants to, but we're gonna get him in a minute.
Yeah,
it's just he's, as we've said so many times, he's so happy there. He seems so relaxed. He's literally at one with the car, and yeah, I think 4th is about where that car is. Well, in Alonso's hands, it is anyway. I don't think there's much that went wrong there, to be fair.
What did you think of his radio message saying, "Hey, I found a good brake balance setting. Does Lance want to tell him, get him to put it on? It's really good." And then Lance made a mistake, literally the next corner.
I think we shared a little text when the radio messages were going through, and I'm telling you now, he's terrified of Lawrence.
Lawrence has got some dirt on him.
He's met his match there, and he's trying to be as nice as possible because he doesn't want to lose that seat.
He's just having the best time. That's interesting. Okay, so I gave Alonso an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I just because when I was looking at the performance, I think he'd have probably been a lot higher up in quali. They had DRS issues, and that was unfortunate. And he just kind of struggled with that. He did a decent recovery in the sprint, and then in the actual race, he had some great moves on Hamilton, and possibly one of the biggest muggings I've ever seen when he overtook Sainz on the safety car restart. That was brutal for Sainz and textbook Alonso. So yeah, I think if he'd have been able to catch Charles and get up onto the podium, I'd have scored him higher. But I think he had a really, really solid weekend, especially because they seemed to have issues kind of all the way through the weekend on both cars for the Astons. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. He did mug Sainz, and Sainz is the next driver on our list. And I have a feeling that we have both not scored Sainz particularly highly on this weekend. And I think I think Sainz himself would probably not score himself particularly highly here either. He did not have a great weekend, did he? It was a bit messy.
Yeah, so we shared a bit of a text over this as well, didn't we? I'm starting to come round to the idea that maybe he's just not quite at that level. He's consistently outperformed by his teammates across most races that you watch. But this weekend alone, he just didn't seem to have the pace at all, especially when Charles doing what he did with the car. So, 4th in quali, it's not bad. 5th in the shootout, 5th in the sprint, and then 5th in the Grand Prix. He just had a bit of a nothing race, really. Once Alonso got past him, he just pulled away, and he was God knows how many seconds in front. He was just sort of there in the car, driving it round as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast.
Yeah, exactly. He was miles off Charles. I think he said himself that he wasn't confident in the car. And there was a point in the race, like in the main Grand Prix, where he was like, I'm just going to bring it home here. Like, I'm not going to push because I'm probably going to, don't want to make a mistake or anything like that. So fair play there. But yeah, he just didn't have the pace at all to do anything like remotely what Charles is doing with it. And I think that lack of confidence clearly is starting to show. It's something that he needs to get on top of. I get the fact that if you've only got one practice session to set up the car, and you don't get it to a point where you're comfortable with, you're on the back foot for the entire weekend, and I do get that. So hopefully he can bounce back. But yeah, it was not a great weekend, and for that I've given him a 4 out of 10. I expected more.
Yeah, it's tough for him, especially when Charles doing what he's doing with the car. Before we went into the Grand Prix on the Sunday, but obviously the Red Bulls eventually did fly off into the distance. When he's battling and competing with them in the qualies, and Sainz must be thinking, "Wow, if this car is capable of that, I should be doing that." And he's miles off it. He's just miles off it.
Yeah,
and it's worrying times, I think, for Carlos Sainz in that car.
Yeah, it doesn't look as secure, does it? As in, his seat doesn't look as secure as maybe it might have done. I mean, to be fair,
maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was why he was driving so slow.
Yeah, bouncing out the side. Yeah, I mean, in fairness to him, it's a bad weekend. I guess you have them pack up and move on. But yeah, hey ho. Behind Sainz, we had Sir Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis had an interesting weekend here, and I've scored him a 7 out of 10 for it.
Okay.
I thought he was pretty solid, and I thought he pretty much got everything he could out of the car. I think there was certain, the reason I haven't scored him super high is he did get out qualified by Russell and by Sainz in the shootout, but he had a decent main quali. He did lose a place in the sprint, and then, to be fair, he got screwed over by the safety car in the race. He pit, and then the safety car came out, and I think he ended up in like 10th or something like that. He had a great comeback though from there. Some lovely moves on Stroll and Russell as well. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for Lewis. I think he pretty much did everything he could.
Yeah, to be fair, I scored him exactly the same. And to be fair, there's nothing much I've got in my notes to add to that. Otherwise, I'd just be repeating what you were saying. Yeah, pretty solid. No more you could ask for.
Nice. And then we got Mr. Lance Stroll. How did you rate his performance this weekend?
So I gave him a 6. Is that bad?
Well, so I gave him a 5.
All right, okay. Well, that makes me feel a bit better. My main critique of Lance Stroll at the minute, and I know he's still only relatively young, and he's all these things, but I am now starting to really compare him to Fernando Alonso and the other one.
Yeah.
If Fernando Alonso, maybe if it was any other one in that season, they were performing. I think it's common that knowledge that Fernando Alonso's outperforming that car. I think the car's really good, but I think he's getting like 120% out of it, and maybe Lance is only getting 80 out of it. So there's like a bit of a disparity there. So yeah, I think when you're that far behind, like I didn't actually put it in my notes, but he was 4 places behind, 3 places behind. Yeah, I think he's got to. Yeah, well, he hasn't got to do better because he's got a seat there forever. But like in terms of to play the team game, he's got to really start putting in performances that match Alonso for me to rate him any higher.
Yeah, I've kind of said the same. He was basically off the pace of Alonso through the weekend. He had some good moments and some not so good moments, and it's just kind of balanced out. I think he could have been up there with Alonso if he'd have driven a better weekend. And it's those little mistakes. It's the tap in the wall, which could have. He was very lucky there. It could have been so much nastier than it ended up being. And I believe he did have some damage on the car after that, but he hit a wall. And then he made that mistake, which lost him a place to Hamilton. He did well to get back ahead of Russell after being kind of, outsmarted really in the pit entry. So yeah, just kind of a weekend. Maybe I've been a bit harsh on him there, but I want to see a bit more from him. So 5 out of 10.
Can't argue with that.
So. And then we've got Mr. Russell himself.
Bloody hell.
Crikey.
Blimey. No, he's British. He's not British.
Yeah, I don't know why. You got an Australian there.
Definitely British.
He's the most British guy, but I've given him a 6 out of 10 here. And the reason I've given him that is because I felt like he was really ballsy in some of his moves in the races. And proper respect to that. But I think he made mistakes as well. And I think he got a bit carried away. He had a pretty poor qualifying, P11 for the main race. Good sprint, a little bit reckless. The collision with Max, I think the internet has gone over that enough. We probably don't need to go into it loads, but it happens sometimes, I guess. A bit risky. And then in the main race, good move on Stroll in the pits to take advantage of that. Smart, switched on. But then kind of dropped it, had a bad restart. Came home 8th. Just kind of, I don't know, a bit all over the place really. On the other side of the garage, Lewis looked a lot smoother. Russell just seemed a bit kind of, bit everywhere. What did you think?
Yeah, so I thought exactly the same. And it's interesting you mentioned the Lewis thing because I kind of feel like, I know we have another race in a month, but I kind of feel like Lewis is sort of getting somewhere back to being Lewis. So I think this weekend's race was how I imagined it always to go when Russell joined the team. Does that make sense? It's like, because for a while, for a few races, certainly Russell was kind of outperforming Lewis in that car. And everyone was a bit like, well, that's what's going on here. But yeah, I kind of feel like Lewis is sort of settling back into it now. And I thought it was a solid performance from Lewis, which we've already gone over. Yeah, I think George can be he's either really, really good or he's quite sloppy. And I think he just had a bit of a sloppy weekend. As you say, some good moments, but yeah.
I guess last of the top 4 teams as well, which isn't amazing. It's not where you want to be, is it? And then talking about everyone else, we'll try and rapid fire through all these. I guess we'll spend a little bit more time on the top 10 because we've only got 2 guys left, and then we'll rapid fire through everyone else. But P9, Mr. Norris.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good weekend, actually. I thought I can't remember where he qualified. I haven't got it down in my notes. Was he 10th? 9th?
Not sure. He qualified well. They were in the top 10.
Yeah, he qualified well. I thought the McLaren was actually showing a little bit more pace this weekend than it certainly has done in past weekends. I thought it showed it could keep up because for a lot of the time it just gets sort of lost in the abyss of not quite the top team, but not quite the lower team. It just gets lost in that grey area sometimes. But yeah, I thought it was a decent drive from him. It showed that hopefully the upgrades to the car have done a decent job, and it's not just maybe the track that's suiting the car. I thought it was a decent weekend. I give him a 6.
Nice. Okay. I think
6 is like down the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I actually went one higher. I gave him a 7. Agree with everything you said. I think solid weekend. He did have an awful sprint, and I don't think it was his fault at all. The team put the soft tyres on, and he just kind of ran out of them after about 2 laps. I think he pitted in the end. Great job to hang on to a point, and that move on Hulkenberg was quite nice. So, yeah.
They love that move, didn't they, on the TV?
Well, it was one of the only moves we saw. So,
did it get overtaken today? I think it might have.
Probably. And then we've got Yuki, who is fast becoming my favourite driver, so I had to work hard on the bias here.
So I tell you what, I'll go down because I know you love Yuki and you love a big stack of notes.
I've given him 15. No, go on.
Do you know what? I give him an 8. Just because, like, I'm made up. He got a point. That's it. That's all I've got. I'm just really happy he got a point because he deserves it.
Mate, I 8 out of 10 as well. Just because I think he had a great performance in the main race, and I feel like he had some weird moments throughout the rest of the weekend, including his tyre just bouncing off the car and sort of, finishing the race itself in the sprint and stuff. He got massively screwed over by sprint qualifying red flags. He was literally about to finish his lap, and it would have put him safe, and the session got red flagged and not restarted. So, yeah, brutal, but he did a great job to hang on and get a point. Top job. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 from me. Let's rapid fire through these fellas, shall we? We've got the next, the guys outside the points for the main race. Mr. Oscar Piastri, how did you rate his weekend?
Again, the only reason, so I know we're rapid firing through this, so I won't chat too much. The only reason I gave him, so I gave him a 6, which I think was the same. It was the same I gave Lando, and now looking back on that, that's probably a bit silly. I'm going to change that to a 5. I've got to compare him to his teammate. His teammate was really solid throughout the week, and to be fair, he wasn't necessarily bad, but I think once you prove the car's got points in it, maybe go and get them.
Yeah, fair play.
But
fair
then
play.
He's a rookie, so it's like...
I've actually rated him the same as Lando. I've given him a 7 out of 10. And the only reason I've done that is I think he did have some decent drives and he was just outside the points in both races. But I believe he's been really ill. Like, really ill. So apparently he was going backwards and forwards between the doctors and he's lost loads of weight through, like, fluid loss and stuff.
Well, then he should be faster.
Yeah. So I'm going to downgrade him. No, I think solid job, all things considered. So, yeah, 7 out of 10 for him. Mr. Alex Albon.
Take it away.
I gave him a 7 out of 10. I think he's consistently putting the car where it shouldn't be. He got really unlucky with the safety car in the main race. He'd already pit when it came out and it just dropped him into a train, basically, and he got stuck there. But yeah, solid job. 7 out of 10.
Fully agree. 7 out of 10. 12th in a Williams. What more do you want?
Exactly. Smashing it. Next, we've got Kevin Magnussen. I gave him a 6 out of 10 for this one because I thought it was a decent drive, but I think he was just a bit invisible. He got stuck in the sort of Ocon-Hulkenberg train that formed during the main race, but I just think throughout the weekend we didn't see too much of him. So 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go down the middle. I'll agree with you there.
Nice.
Not much to be said on K-Mag there.
Got Mr. Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, P14. I think he finished. I think the car's quicker than that, to be honest. And I think it's quicker than that in his hands, especially. So I don't think it was a great weekend if we're just going on the race. So for Pierre, I go with a 5.
Wow. Okay. I've been a lot harsher. I've gone 3 out of 10 for Pierre. Just because, yeah,
you're a bitch, man.
Really harsh. Just because it was a bit of a weekend to forget, wasn't it? I mean, I know he didn't get barely any practice running, so that's a bit harsh. But then he qualified, not great. Then he crashed in the sprint quali. Then he ended up nowhere in the sprint race, and then the actual race he finished 14th.
The car's quicker than that, isn't it?
I mean, Crofty made a big fuss out of him finally overtaking Logan Sargent in a Williams, which kind of says it all about his weekend, really. So, yeah, 3 out of 10. Hopefully he bounces back because he's a good driver, but not a good weekend for him. And talking about not good weekends, same as teammate Ocon. I've given him a 4 out of 10 just because I think Ocon had a decent, like an okay performance. It wasn't amazing, and then just kind of vanished. And then ran possibly the weirdest strategy I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't really understand what they're... Like, I get what they were going for there, but it is the biggest Hail Mary to just pull and just fingers crossed someone crashes, because otherwise we're going to look really silly. And they didn't, and they looked really silly. And then he avoided some photographers, during his pit stop, which I guess we'll probably get into later on. But like, yeah, just a bit of a weekend to forget for Ocon and Alpine as a whole. 4 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, I give him a 5, but I need to revise my rankings because you're definitely more cruel than me. I give a 5 as really crap. So
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Maybe I give him a 4, but then a 5 just for avoiding them photographers. So yeah,
nice
cracking reactions.
Nice, yeah. Logan Sargent, the other rookie.
I like Sargent. I think he's. I honestly really don't know. I mean, I like him. I think he does solid drives. The Williams is a shed on wheels in it. Let's face it. Yeah, I think it was okay. I don't think it was too bad. As you said, he held up Pierre for a little while before he eventually got past him. I think that's pretty good in a Williams.
Yeah, it wasn't awful.
He's at the wheel of it. So
how did you score him? What was your final number?
Well, see, I give him a 5, but like I feel like I should be meaner now, so a 4.
Oh, I gave him a 5.
Oh,
you meanie. Just because I think he had pace, but he binned it, and it looked like he was going to be doing better in the sprint quali. I think he was through, but he's a rookie. It's kind of I can forgive him for that. It's his rookie season, and then you're in Baku on one practice. I get it. Like it wasn't a weekend of dreams for him. He didn't do amazingly. Finished 16th, but yeah, it was okay. So 5 out of 10 from me.
I've got high hopes for him.
Yeah, I think we'll see some decent performances from him. He's got pace. So
yeah.
Hulkenberg.
Nico Hulkenberg.
Hulkenberg. How did you rate Mr. Hulkenberg?
Again, going off the performance by him and his teammate, was he the one on the mental strategy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he pitted like super duper late. He basically took hards the whole way around, didn't he? If it works, they look a genius.
Yeah,
I think
true.
I think you've just mentioned, if it works, they look like, wow, they've pulled a cracking one there, and it's just like Haas for it not to work. So, I give him a 5, but as I said, this is the lowest I was giving anyone.
Okay.
From next week, I'll revise that.
I've given him a 5 too.
I've
given him a 5 too, so don't feel too bad. Exactly the same. I honestly good defense to keep everyone behind him on hard tires, but just bonkers strategy. But at least he let us see some overtakes.
He must have done okay to get those hard tires. Like what? How many laps did he get?
The entire race, pretty much.
50 odd laps, yeah. So that's like cracking tire management, so I'll give him that.
Yeah. So yeah, both of us 5 out of 10 for Hulk. Bottas.
Bottas. I love Bottas. He's got cool hair, cracking moustache. But we're talking about his driving, and he's really poo this season.
Oh man, yeah.
I just don't know what's happened to him. It feels like he's always last. Always. Yeah. I can't remember. I'm probably wrong, but it feels like he's always last, and he's always pits about 73 times a race, and also gets lapped 45 times by everyone else. I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know.
He's not having fun.
I think the car is a piece of absolute shit.
Yeah.
So he's not a miracle worker, but I don't know. It's just really bad for Bottas at the minute. And again, I said 5, but as we're revising me things, I'll give him like a 3.
Oh, poor Bottas. I've given him a 4. Exactly the same thing. It's hard to rate him because the car is clearly absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But he was behind Joe. So
yeah.
4 out of 10. I've given Joe a 5 out of 10, just again because the car is absolute poo. But he was ahead of Bottas. It's hard to kind of rate him, really, and I guess you've just got to kind of go down the middle for that one. What do you think?
I think he's definitely outperforming Bottas.
Yeah.
He has been since he come in, which is it's not great for Bottas really because he should be. Well, he is the more experienced of the two, and an absolutely solid driver. Yeah, I'll agree. Go straight down the middle with him. It was good. And out of all the rookies, he's the one I've got. Well, out of all the
last
newer
year's
drivers,
rookies, yeah. I know what you mean.
He's definitely of the young crop of drivers. I think he's the most exciting one out of a lot of them. So
keep your eye on him then. And then in last place, we've got Mr. Nick de Vries. I'll let you take this one.
It's not good, is he? I mean, he's obviously a very good driver, but I think a lot of people get to Formula One and they find their level, maybe. And I know it's really only early days and it's a long old season, should he keep the seat that long. But he might prove us all wrong, and I hope he does, because he seems like a really nice guy. But he really has not shown it so far this season. It's been really, really poor. Really poor. And I'd be worried if I was him.
Yeah, I'm with you. What did you score him?
Well, I said
you're going to be... yeah.
But a 2.
We're going with 2. I've gone with 1.
Yeah, he's not good.
You don't want to be horrible, but it was a disaster of a weekend from him. He crashed in practice. The car was looking good. I think did he crash in qualifying as well? Probably. He was just always at the back, and then crashed in the race. And the car looked like it was quick. I mean, Yuki got a point in it. De Vries also squeezed Yuki into the wall during the sprint race, which caused Yuki to have his little crash and lose his tyre. Just not good, and you need to be seeing better. I think he'll see out the season with them, but I can't imagine with these sorts of performances, he won't be around too long. So, yeah, 1 out of 10. So we'll see, because what we will be able to do is kind of plot how we've rated these drivers throughout the season for different races and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if they develop, or if our opinions change on certain people and stuff. If De Vries is just 1 all the way along the bottom, grim. But yeah, the weekend as a whole, then, how would you rate the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend?
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
On my new revised ratings, a 4.
Wow. Okay.
I just didn't enjoy it at all. It doesn't help if this is anywhere else in the season with multiple races before it and multiple races afterwards. Maybe you don't score it so harshly, but I feel like when you wait a month for a race, you're so excited, and then that happens. They bring the new format in. It doesn't work. No one's really liking it. Everyone's a little bit confused with what's going on. The race is really boring. Not much is happening.
Yeah. I scored it a 2.
10 out of 10, are they?
No, well, if they are, I'm worried. I gave it a 2. 2 out of 10. I felt the sprint was just completely pointless. The race itself was dull. And then there was no real tension or stakes in anything. We knew what was going to happen. I texted you and said, what lap is Max getting past Charles then? Because it was literally just obvious how it was all going to go. So 2 out of 10. And we've got Miami next, which is known for its amazing... Oh, no, hang on. No, it's not, is it? Never mind. Well...
Tell you what, though, they do paint a good river.
They're good at painting water. And I hope that... for all of our sanity's sake, that it's a better race. So yeah, that's okay. Well, that's the recap on the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, with one small exception, and we'll have to cover this quickly. There was an interesting incident at the end of the race where Ocon still hadn't pit because he was doing his insane tyre strategy and just hoping that someone else crashed, even though he knew De Vries was already out, which kind of is the flaw in that plan. Ocon pit on the last lap, And all the photographers and everyone from the FIA had started already piling into the pit lane, getting ready for the cars to come back into Parc Fermé and do the post-race interviews and all that sort of stuff. So you end up in this situation where poor old Ted was losing his mind because he was literally sounded like he, and you know, not to joke, he literally sounded like he was worried someone was going to get killed because it was ridiculously close to an incident happening. You've got Ocon coming down the pit lane to take a stop on the final lap, and you've just got a group of photographers, which, to be fair, it's not, you know, someone sent them out, it's not their fault, but you've got a group of photographers, you've got guys putting, like, you know, taping off the pit lane, having to kind of scramble out of the way. What a shambles. Like, what a ridiculous look for Formula One.
I actually watched the first half of Ted's Notebook this morning, and he was covering it. It was essentially the security that let the photographers and all those people in. So it's essentially their fault, but there's got to be better communication between the FIA, just everyone, because as you've mentioned, it's not really a joke. Like, someone could die. Like, them cars are hurtling into them pits, and like, he could have just went bowling there. Like, there was so many people right by the entrance, the entrance to the boxing bit of the pit, and it's just like, it's a mistake that just cannot be allowed to be made. It's just, it's poor, and it looks so bad on the organisational side for Formula One, especially
when they're talking about you know, bringing in new rules for safety around mechanics jumping on the pit wall and all that sort of stuff. It's like, guys, I think you've got bigger issues here. Yeah, it's not a good look at all. And someone needs to get bollocked for that, quite rightly. Gladly no one was injured. So, yeah, let's not see that again. Cool. Well, that was a podcast. That was the first remote podcast we've done. There's only one thing we've got left. Do you want to take this one? Or do you want to tee this one up?
I was going to say, no, I don't, because you've got the thing. So for the past month-ish, we've been running a competition for you guys to win some really cool stuff. So I think it was a Pitlane Collective, their T-shirt, some coasters, and a poster. All of your choice. Yeah, we had loads and loads of entries. Don't know how many there was, but there was quite
over 100.
Over 100 people entered, and we did say that on the weekend of the Baku Grand Prix, we would announce the winner, and this might be the most exciting thing that's happened on the weekend, because it certainly wasn't the race. So, yeah.
So, thanks to everyone who entered. We've added all your names into a random kind of shuffler thing.
Yeah,
picker. And the winner of the first Pitlane podcast, Pitlane Collective giveaway is Trev Butler.
Whee!
So congrats, Trev. We'll be in touch, and you can pick out the design that you want on your T-shirt, your coasters, and your poster. So good stuff. Congratulations, mate. That is it. That is it. That is the giveaway. Honestly, we've been super kind of bowled away by how many of you guys got involved in that, how many of you followed the Instagram and you know, started like engaging with us on the actual podcast as well. It's really cool. So thank you everyone who entered. It means a lot. And yeah, it's really great to see that sort of response. Congrats, Trev. And yeah, that's essentially the end of this podcast, really, isn't it now? Well, this episode, not the end of this
not
podcast.
Like forever.
Hopefully we'll be back in like the same room as each other for the next time. Let us know if you guys thought the remote version worked, because there are obviously going to be some instances throughout the year where we might have to rely on this if we can't get into the same room together. But yeah, let us know what you thought. Let us know what you thought of the new format. How would you rank everyone out of 10 for this weekend? How would you rank the Azerbaijan Grand Prix out of 10? If you're putting over 6, I'm a bit worried about you, but you know, like, you do you. And
you're an optimist. I like it.
Yeah, the world needs more people like you. But yeah, until next time, thanks for tuning in.